Morning, everybody. How you doing? Welcome back to the Spurs Talk Show. I am Sean Butler. I think you can see Bugsy Malone over my shoulder. Dynamic duo joining you for your Thursday morning transfer news, views and clues update here at the Spurs Talk Show. I hope you're all happy and healthy doing the things you love. Please do me some favours, guys, if you don't mind. Hit the like button for me on the video. Hit the subscribe button on the channel if you haven't already. And even if you have, double check you still are. Hashtag YouTube shenanigans. Hit the notification bell and drop a comment. Let me know your thoughts on today's topics. So yesterday we did the video about Romero's impending update. Who was it going to be on? We spoke about the top 4 or 5 candidates. And then we found out. A few hours later, it came out that Romero saying it is in fact Jean-Clair Todibo. That Tottenham have opened talks with Nice. And that there's optimism, there's hope that we can get the deal done. Now, first and foremost, I will say this. If we can get the deal done, then incredible. He is my number one choice. I actually would say right now, and this might cover your ears if you're a Christian Romero fanboy, but I'd almost say he is above Romero in the pecking order. That's how good I think Todibo is. I think he's incredible. And in any event, if he was to come in, Romero would keep his place and you've got competition for places, which is exactly what you want. But you have competition of the highest order. Now, if Tottenham could get something like this done and then, satisfy yourselves with Ben Davies as a replacement, solid squad number left back, get rid of Eric Dyer in January, and then obviously have to kick the can down the road for the failing loan deal for Davinson Sanchez. Joe Rodon may go permanently, but you're starting to kind of turn over the final pieces of the defensive puzzle. In an ideal world, I know a lot of you would say Ben Davies isn't really good enough either. But I would say, look, Todibo can play both right and left side. Yeah, he's definitely more of a right-sided, right-footed player, but I think he's capable and competent enough to pivot and adapt. So it's not the end of the world to have those 4. I think that's a fairly solid 4-choice centre-back relationship. Just for what it's worth, I didn't mention this name yesterday because I ran out of time on the video, but there's a couple of other names that Tottenham have been linked with. One of them, both of them from Everton, in fact. One of them is Ben Godfrey, and as I've said before, I'm not interested in this guy. He was a good player, had a massively bright future about 3 or 4 years ago. He was Everton's Young Player of the Year. I think he came from Norwich, for like 20 million. And he was doing good bits, but then from a series of injuries, he broke his leg last season. He hasn't made his way back into the team. Sean Dyche hasn't played him very much at all. And for me, whenever I've seen him play, I see a guy who has all of the physical stature to be able to, you'd think, be commanding in the air. But I don't think he is at all. I don't think he can time a jump. I don't think he's very good in the air at all. And I think he's clumsy, really clumsy. I think he's rash. He has rash challenges. And I just don't want to see us sign someone like him who is well off his best and just hasn't kicked on in his career through for whatever series of events have occurred. Just isn't the guy that everyone thought he might be able to be. Now, you have the other guy at Everton, Jared Branthwaite, who I do look at and think there's a real player in there. Again, all of the kind of things that you want to see. Someone who's confident, so young, to grab the ball and run with it. Someone who I think would suit a better team with a different style of play than what Sean Dyche does at Everton. I think his natural physical components would afford him the ease of transition into a team with a higher line. But I'll be entirely honest, I just don't see it happening. I think from what I read this morning, Everton have put a £100 million price tag on his head to sort of fend off any competition for his signature. And if that's the case, then it's unlikely. But if that's not the case, and if Tottenham were to try and go in and do some bits for him, I'd be very happy. Left-sided centre-back mainly, but I think he's very versatile as well. And I think that's what the kind of core message that I'm trying to stay away from repeating too often on this channel, but I do find myself talking about it a lot, is this. It seems to me to be quite obvious under Ange that versatility is desirable. If you can get a player that is capable and competent, but that has the mindset, the intelligence, the footballing IQ, which is often the thing, the final piece of the jigsaw that in the past maybe we've been guilty of signing players without thinking about that side of the game. Tanguy and Ndombele, a perfect example. Technicalities and physical components are important, but you need to have the guy to be sharp of mind, willing to commit, to learn, to adapt, to buy in, all those things. And versatility in the player's ability to play in several different places that, if asked. I think a lot of that comes down to the brain that you have. Like I was saying this the other day with Dave, I think that Pedro Porro could play right back, right wing back, right wing forward, right winger. I also think he can play in one of the eights. I really do. Because I think he is not just a technically gifted player, but he is a mentality monster. And I just think that maybe it's a little bit more difficult to worry about specificity, to worry about versatility over specificity when it comes to centre-backs. But I think you can do it if you pick the right names. And Todibo, for me, is one of them. And I believe that Jared Brandthwaite would be as well. But if Everton are going to put a £100 million price tag on his head, then it's kind of a moot conversation for me. So we shall move on. But listen, as I say, for me, I said this yesterday, so I'll keep this very brief. But if Tottenham think they're going to have an easy run at Todibo, you'd be surprised because of the relationship with Sir Jim Ratcliffe. Where I would say there's an opportunity is the fact that Nice, that French football fans don't like playing second fiddle to English teams. I remember the Bournemouth owner went to try and buy Lorient FC, I think it's called, or Lorient FC. And there was an uprising from their ultras who basically said, ain't no way we are playing second tier in a footballing pyramid for your multi-club ownership model. It's never going to happen. And that is one of the negative side effects of MCOs, is that people that aren't at the very top of the pecking order, the fans of that team can feel like they're being undermined, or they can lose that kind of brand, that kind of relationship, that local relationship with their club, if those considerations are not made. Not to get off the point, but for Nice, I'm not sure if they would accept their club receiving a lower fee in order to help out Manchester United, just because they happen to be in the same multi-club ownership model and obviously would then come across like a priority. I just don't think it would happen. And so if Tottenham do want Todibo, then they would have to make it happen now, whilst Manchester United haven't yet ratified the Sir Jim Ratcliffe deal and therefore don't have access to that money and are also up against FFP. And if they were to offer a suitable amount of money and Todibo was on board with it, then I think you could make it make sense. But if you wait too long, if you wait until the summer, when the Sir Jim Ratcliffe money will have kind of gone into Manchester United, then I think it becomes more and more likely that he goes to Manchester United. But in any event, let's dare to dream for a minute. So let's park the Todibo conversation to one side and look towards the next story, which was Charlie Eccleshare. And when Charlie speaks, he's usually speaking from a place of authority and insight. He's not just an aggregator that clickbaity or anything. He talks sense, and a lot of the times when he says things, they come true. And he said this morning or yesterday that Tottenham are indeed trying to acquire Conor Gallagher in January, and that Chelsea are looking to sell because they need that money to be registered on their FFP, on their books, so that they can then go after what they need or what they feel they need to help them out in the second half of the season. Now, as I said yesterday, I'd be very surprised. I'd be very surprised if Conor Gallagher wanted to leave. I'd be very surprised if the fans would be okay with it. He is Chelsea's captain. But maybe, and I also said that Trevor Chalobah therefore makes a little bit more sense if they were going to liquidate one of their kind of more valuable assets in order to get that money on the books. But maybe Pochettino, if there's truth to this story, has had a conversation and said, actually, we're okay. We've got enough options in midfield. And we need more than that money. We need that, plus we need Trevor Chalobah sold. Because I've got ambitions. I need to do this up the top end. I need to go and replace a Nico Jackson. I need to get a better goalkeeper. Whatever they want to do might be dependent on selling not just Trevor Chalobah, but Conor Gallagher as well. And so he might end up being kind of forced out of the club. And this is what Charlie Eccleshare is saying, that Tottenham are seriously interested in trying to make this happen. And so if that could happen, then guys, like, again, this is massively speculative here. So just run with me. But if Tottenham could get this done early January, where you have a centre-back that comes in of the standard, the level that I think it actually improves the first team, let alone just improves the squad, in Todibo. If you could go and get a Conor Gallagher, and that would probably come at the hest of liquidating Lo Celso to Barcelona, maybe on a loan with an obligation to buy for, say, £20 million, 15, 20, 18 million pounds. I mean, there's lots of speculation around what the valuation of Lo Celso really is. Some people say it should be 25 million. I don't think anyone's paying 25 million for him. Some people say it's as low as 12 million. And if, you kind of think on that basis, for 12 million pound, are you going to be able to get someone with more talent, even though he's moody as a player, than a Lo Celso? And I think the answer is no. But let's kind of meet in the middle and say 20 million pound. And if Højbjerg did in fact want to go, then I think in Conor Gallagher, you have a player that is the versatile improvement on both of them. We know Lo Celso can play in the 10, but now we have Decky that probably prioritises that spot, and obviously Maddison. So less need for him in the 10, and less needs must, and you go through more and more of these massive, ridiculously complex injury crises that we have gone through in the last month or two. You could also play in the 8, but you lose a little bit of that combative nature in the 8 for his creative side, maybe. But you can make the argument that he is versatile. With Pierre-Emile Højbjerg, you've got someone who has played in the 6 for Tottenham, has played in the 8, hasn't really played in the 10 for Tottenham, but certainly has done for Denmark. And so you do have versatility there. But again, most people would say, like, not of the level that you want. I've got no problem with Højbjerg. I think he's very good. And when you look at the list of midfielders that you have at Tottenham, and you think in order of preference, and your sort of level list might be different to mine, but you've got Maddison, Bissouma, Bentancur, Decky, Højbjerg, Lo Celso, Sarr, and Skip. That's 8 midfielders, and Lo Celso and Højbjerg are probably 6th and 7th on that list. If you can liquidate both of those and buy Conor Gallagher with the money you raise, then all right, you might be losing a number, but that obviously then gives an opportunity for someone like Jamie Donnelly to maybe get more minutes if needs must in that 10 role, or into a, and obviously next year we've got the players like Alfie Devine that are returning to the club and that you would hope are ready to then sort of progress into the first team. So I think you are liquidating 2 players that most Tottenham fans wouldn't be too, devastated to see leave the club, and to bring in a Conor Gallagher who for sure 100% can play the 6, 100% can play the 8, 100% can play the 10, who can do everything he's after him. He's a brilliant trainer, a brilliant professional. I think he's a fantastic player. He chips in with goals. He's combative. He'll run all day. I think he is the perfect addition to our squad. I know not all of you feel the same about Conor Gallagher, but that's, what makes a market. I guess everyone's got their own opinion. For me, I think the guy is excellent, and I would be very happy to see our midfield options go from 8 to 7 if we could replace Lo Celso and Højbjerg with a Conor Gallagher. For me, sensational. He, of course, also offers the homegrown number, and that is, again, a really necessary kind of additional value add to not overlook, because then that makes it easier when you have him in. And by the way, if it's not him and it's Calvin Phillips, then the same argument applies. I don't think Calvin Phillips is quite as versatile as Conor Gallagher is. I think he's more of just a straight out-and-out number 6, who at his best, I think, will be able to compete with Bentancur and Bissouma for that role. I think that Bentancur could find himself on the 8, and Bissouma, look, we've spoken about him. I still think, as much as I was wrong in the first half of the season when he shone as a number 6, I still think that there's probably a better 8 in there than there is a 6. But he also needs to get his consistency up. Anyway, with Calvin Phillips, you also have the homegrown thing, and if he's fully fit and back to his best, you have a wonderful player. And so I don't want to see us buy him, but I wouldn't mind loaning up with an option, as I said yesterday. But for me, if we're just sticking to Charlie Eccleshare's story about Conor Gallagher and Romano's story about Todibo, what are we doing here? You sell if you can find exits for Hugo Lloris, for Eric Dyer, and you bring in a Todibo. If you can find exits for Højbjerg and Lo Celso, and you bring in a Conor Gallagher, then you've also got room to bring in a striker without having to necessarily move any forwards on just yet. And I still think that if you were to get a winger in, then maybe you would see Perisic leave the club in January anyway, which I would find a shame, because for what it's worth, I still think he is our second best left winger after Sonny at the moment. I think he is. I know he's injured now, and we'll have to see what sort of version of him comes back if we ever see him play again. But the cadences of his step overs are so good, and his ability to cross the ball into the danger zone. His absence, I think, has in no small part impeded Richarlison's progression. So, but if you were to bring in a forward like a Jota, I think you would still then have room for a Santiago Jimenez. Can you imagine that, guys? Can you imagine? Just work with me here for a second. If on February the 1st, 2024, I know you skeptics out there are going to go, Sean, wake up, mate. This never going to happen. It's too windy down here. Let me come over here. But just imagine Jean-Clair, Todibo, Conor Gallagher, Jota, or Antonio Nusa, or someone who's impressive on the left, and a Santiago Jimenez, all coming in January. Plus you have Mickey van der Ven back by injury then. Plus you'll also have James Maddison back by injury by then. Bentancur won't be too far behind. Solomon, I'm not sure. I mean, we're talking then you have quality, depth, and versatility in basically every position on the pitch. The only question marks you then have would be about a goalkeeper. There was an issue with the goalkeeper. If he got injured or sent off, then there's a big problem. And possibly left back. Probably left back. Because even though we haven't seen Ryan Sessegnon play this system, I think we all know. And Ben Davies playing left back doesn't really work. But maybe you could shoehorn Mickey van der Ven into that position. Not that I would want to do that, but you could do that and then have Todibo playing on the left and Romero on the right. So you've got options, you've got versatility, you've got utility, and you have specificity, guys. And it's a wonderful thing. It's a wonderful thing. So listen, I just wanted to chit-chat with you today. It's not really a transfer news, views and clues update as much as just to talk about Todibo, talk about Eccleshare's view that Conor Gallagher is potentially on and Chelsea are up for it. Dare to dream, boys. Dare to dream. And girls, dare to dream. Bugsy is all about this as well. I've been talking to her about this. Her tail wags whenever I say the word Todibo. Anyway, that's it from me, guys. Nothing else to talk about. I might do a live stream tonight talking about Tottenham Everton, the preview. Let me know in the comments what you think about all this stuff. And I'll see you on the next one. Like, subscribe and comment. And as always, guys, bye-bye.